Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive deep into the evolution of big data. And trust me, it's an awesome story. It's full of digital tsunamis, some absolutely brilliant engineering, and this relentless quest for more and more speed that has literally changed how our world works. So, let's jump right in.
It really all boils down to this one simple question. We went from gigabytes to terabytes, and now we're talking about exabytes and zettabytes. Numbers so big, they kind of break your brain. And at that scale, you can't just buy a bigger hard drive. You have to throw out the old rulebook and start thinking in a totally new way. So here's the game plan. First, we'll unpack the problem itself. Then, we'll meet the original hero that tamed it. After that, we'll see why we suddenly needed something way faster and introduce the new engine that changed everything. And finally, we'll see how they actually work together and check out some amazing real-world examples. All right, first things first. Before we can really appreciate the solutions, we have to understand the sheer scale and complexity of the challenge. People weren't kidding when they called it a digital tsunami. It was a beast. And you might think big data is just about, well, being big, about volume, but that's only a tiny piece of the puzzle. The real monster is what the experts call the 6 Vs. You've got the variety of data, the incredible velocity it comes at you with. Each one of these Vs was a massive hurdle that the old systems just completely choked on. Let's just take variety, for example. Yeah, forget about nice, clean spreadsheets with neat rows and columns. We're talking about a messy, chaotic jumble of everything all at once. You've got your structured data, sure, but then you've got emails, social media posts, photos, videos, all pouring in from a million different places. And then you've got this insane speed, velocity. Data isn't something that gets delivered once a day anymore. It's a constant, high-speed river of information. Think about all the data streaming from your phone, from smart devices, from social media. The whole game shifted from asking, what happened last month, to what is happening right now? So with this data tsunami crashing down, how on earth did anyone even begin to handle it? Well, we needed a hero, and that hero came in the form of a truly revolutionary framework called MapReduce. MapReduce, which came out of Google and became the heart of the open-source Hadoop project, was a total game changer. For the first time, you didn't need a multi-million-dollar supercomputer to crunch massive datasets. You could do it on a whole cluster of regular off-the-shelf computers. It basically democratized big data, putting this incredible power into the hands of way more people. And what was so genius about MapReduce was how elegantly simple the core idea was. First, the map step takes a gigantic job and breaks it down into thousands of tiny, bite-sized pieces. Then, the reduce step swoops in, gathers up all the answers from those tiny pieces, and puts them together into one final result. But here's the real magic. It did all the hard work for you, distributing the tasks, handling failures. It was incredible. Okay, so MapReduce was amazing. Problem solved, right? Well, not so fast. The world, as it always does, kept changing. MapReduce was fantastic for huge jobs you could run overnight, but a new demand was bubbling up, a demand for speed that MapReduce just wasn't built for. And this quote right here, it just nails the new feeling. People didn't want to wait hours for a report anymore. They wanted to play with the data, to ask a question, and get an answer now. They wanted to see things as they unfold. And MapReduce's whole process of writing data back to a slow hard disk after every single step, well, it just couldn't keep up. So this need for speed, for right-now answers, set the stage perfectly for our next hero to burst onto the scene, Apache Spark. And the core difference, the thing that gave Spark its superpower, is right here. MapReduce was constantly reading and writing from the slow-spinning hard disk. Spark, on the other hand, did as much as it possibly could in the computer's super-fast memory, or RAM. It's like the difference between going to a library to look up a fact versus just having the book already open on your desk. It's not even a fair fight. And look at what that means in the real world. This is just, wow. For some jobs, something that took MapReduce a full 10 minutes to do, Spark could crank out in just 6 seconds. That's not just faster, that's a whole different reality. In fact, when you're doing really complex stuff like machine learning, Spark could be up to 100 times faster. 100 times. Let that sink in for a second. This wasn't just a small step up, it was a total revolution. So you'd think, okay, new hero shows up, old hero is out, right? But in the world of tech, it's not always that simple. What happened next was actually way more interesting. Instead of a replacement, we got a partnership, a super powerful one. It turns out, Hadoop's file system was still the absolute best at one thing, storing absolutely mind-boggling amounts of data, safely and cheaply. So Spark just slotted in on top as the new high-octane processing engine. Think of it this way. Hadoop is this massive, indestructible library that can hold, well, everything. And Spark? Spark is the lightning-fast librarian who can find, read, and cross-reference any book you want in the blink of an eye.
Okay, that's the tech. But what does this dream team of Hadoop and Spark actually let you do in the real world? Well, let's look at one of the most famous examples ever of how this power can be used. Let's set the scene. It's the Super Bowl, 2013, biggest TV event of the year. Millions are glued to their screens. And then, bam! The lights go out in the stadium. For the organizers, it's a nightmare. But for one very, very clever marketing team, it was a golden opportunity.
Now, think about this. A 30-second TV spot during the game, you're looking at around $4 million. But the team at Oreo, because they had the tools to analyze social media in real time, was about to pull off a marketing coup for a tiny, tiny fraction of that cost. Just minutes, I mean minutes into the blackout, this simple, perfect image with this brilliant caption pops up on Twitter from Oreo. It went viral instantly, got over 16,000 retweets, and became this legendary case study in marketing, all because they could react to something as it was happening. And this kind of speed isn't just for clever ads. It's happening all around you, every single day. It's what lets your bank detect fraud the second it happens, not hours later. It's what powers those live recommendation engines on streaming sites. It's used for patient monitoring in hospitals and for managing financial risk. This isn't just about marketing. It's about our health, our finances, and our security. So from MapReduce, the original hero that wrangled the chaos, to Spark, the speed demon that gave us real-time power, the story of big data is just one of constant, relentless evolution, which leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. As we create more and more data every single second, what's the next hero going to look like? What breakthrough will we be talking about next?